Hey guys, Joe with Carmel. I already messed it up. Hey guys, Joe with Carmel Car Audio, and today are the top 3 vehicles I prefer to install in for car audio. And we're going to cover 3 main points. We're going to cover the cost of the install, the ease of installation of the install, and the airspace that we'll be working with in the install compared to for subwoofers and getting the most out of that sub. So number 1, we're starting off with the Dodge Charger and Challenger. Those 2 vehicles, starting from like 2010 all the way to now, they have the same somewhat sort of style for the trunk, and I love it. The ease of install on this thing, beautiful. I've had time and time again where these things come in, and I perfected how I want to install this system, whether it's 4-channel, sub-amp, backup camera, heated seats, remote start, the whole 9 yards. I've had enough time with these because they're so popular to get to know them very well on the inside and out to show you just the beauty that this car can bring. So first off, for sub amps, I want to mention the M7. I can put it right here and show you these things fit perfect in between the humps and the trunk. The other thing, when you're doing a sub amp, your back rear deck speakers, they're 6x9s, and they're going to be your right and your left, and sometimes you have a sub right here in the center. Super easy to get signal right there, drop it down, hook it up to your sub if you're running a factory radio. Some of the newer ones you can't put a new radio in there, so all you have is an LOC to tap into. Everything is within this trunk. Now, with everything being in one spot, I can make this thing just look ridiculously clean and make it look OEM without having to spend 4 hours on this thing. 0 to 10 on ease of install, this thing's a freaking 10. Beautiful. Airspace, let's say about an 8, because you can get more room out of like a Chevy Tahoe. Price point on these things, we can make them fairly loud for fairly cheap. Some of our kits coming right about the $500 range for a set of sub, amp, box, install everything out the door. Roughly, don't hold me to that. Pretty fairly inexpensive to get yourself started on these cars, and there's nothing too technical you have to buy to make things work in this car. So that's all I've got for the Dodge Charger and Challenger. Let's hop on to number 2. Yeah, we'll go this way. And number 2, Chevy. Man, these things are just beautiful. Love them. But more specifically, what I like is the 03 and up Chevy, whether it's a radio or a backup camera or my favorite, remote start. These things, just beautiful. You get the steering column part. I'm speaking more about the remote start than the sub amps at this point, but that is my go-to car for remote starts. Now, I still have to hardwire everything in that car as far as lock, unlock, start, stop. You get the idea. There's still, it's not just a plug, woohoo! No, I still have to hardwire everything. But man, everything is right there, and my OCD loves it. The fact that all the wires run in a neat, nice fashion, and it's just a smooth feel when I get done with it. As far as the ease of install, for me, for a remote start, 8 out of 10. Well, no, let's do about 7, 7 or 8 out of 10 for install. And then airspace, you don't have a whole lot of airspace. I'd say like, 3 out of 10. Not a whole lot of airspace to really work with. If you take the seats out, well, then you got all the airspace you really need. Wall it off, make it loud. Perfect. But let's be practical. You're not getting a whole lot of airspace. What you're probably going to wind up doing is get a couple 10s in there, a couple 8s. Sound perfect in a nice prefab ported box if you can flit it underneath that seat. But if you're looking for something like 12s or 15s, not going to cut it unless you take the seats out. Pricing on these, I'm going to give it about 6.5, maybe 7. Just because of the factors that take play when installing into this car. Sometimes you might have Bose, you might have Bose Premium, you may have a basic radio. It really depends on the standard radio that you have in the car. So it can vary. But for the most part, you can get away with a pretty good, decent system, roughly about the $550, $600 range. So let's move to number 3. Number 3, it's more of a general class of Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, those 3. Ease of install, 2. It's a 2. They are tedious, they are proprietary, There's nothing really easy on this car to do. But let's move on to the airspace. Airspace, wonderful airspace as far as your trunks, got plenty of room in them, and your hatchbacks. Those two alone give you plenty of space to work with. They sound phenomenal just because of the way the car is built and manufactured. The way that car is just makes those systems that you put into it, as far as door speakers, threes, tweets, subs, doesn't matter. It's going to sound super nice. Price point, it's not cheap. It's like a 2. But you got about, a 6 to 7 on airspace. But the reason I like working on these cars is just simply because of how good of a system I can get in there with what I put in. Now that contradicts with the price point thing a little bit, because you're like, well, it costs a lot to put stuff in there. Initial setup, yes. If you're doing like an amp in there, 4-channel, a DSP, stuff like this, it costs a lot of money to integrate into it aftermarket wise. But as far as putting a set of door speakers in, I can put that in and it's going to sound so much better than another car that's on the lot right now, like between a Chevy or a Ford or a Dodge. The doors on those cars are sealed so well, it creates so much mid-bass and gives efficiency back to the speaker than these other cars, because they have a ton of little tiny holes on the door skin. So you take the door skin off and you got nice little holes to access everything. So the ease of access on the Chevy, Ford, Dodge, super easy to work on to get access to your windows, your motor, your wiring, all of that stuff. But on Volkswagen or Audi or BMW, they have nice little skin cards to put in the door to cover all of that dead space, to seal it up, to give efficiency back to the speaker. So right off the bat, without having to do deadener or amplifying or anything like that, those speakers come to life. And the other thing I'd like to mention, these cars typically have 3-way setups from the get-go. So you got your factory little 6 or 8 underneath the driver's seat, you got a midway in the door, and you got a tweet. So doing a 3-way system, aftermarket wise, on a DSP and amplifier, you've already got factory locations. I don't have to cut, I don't have to fab, I don't really have to do anything special to get a 3rd set of speakers in your car for upfront imaging. So for that, absolutely love it. When working on these cars between the BMW, the Audi, the Volkswagen, putting this system in there, it's just great. There's my top 3. That's all I got for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are chasing 200 subscribers right now. We've hit 101 as of today, and we are excited to continue to grow, to bring you better content and reach other people to share the funny stuff that I post up on here. Guys, have a great day. I'm going to get back to work, and I'm going to go work on a Chevy.